So exhausted. This night shift truly drained me. I dragged myself out of the hospital's back gate, every muscle aching. 12 continuous hours in the emergency room were enough to wring out the last bit of strength from a lowly intern like me. It was 2 a.m., the road back to my dorm was deserted, only the dim streetlights casting a long, weary shadow behind me. To save time, I decided to take a shortcut through a narrow alley. A foolish decision, as I would later realize, one that completely changed my life. The alley was dark and damp, reeking of garbage. I quickened my pace, my soft-soled sneakers making no sound. But halfway through, 3 men suddenly emerged from the shadows, blocking my path. My heart lurched, plummeting to my stomach. "Well, hello there, little doctor." The leader grinned lewdly, flashing his stained teeth, his breath reeking of alcohol hitting me square in the face. "Where are you rushing off to? Why don't you stay and play with us for a while?" What do you want?" I trembled, taking a step back. "What do we want?" he sneered, his lecherous eyes raking over me from head to toe, lingering on my white coat still stained with traces of blood. "We just want to give you a little checkup. See if there's anything different inside a doctor's lab coat compared to other girls." "Ah, let go." I tried to run, but 2 burly men grabbed my arms, twisting them behind my back, holding me in a vice-like grip. My body was pressed tightly against the cold, damp brick wall of the dark alley. The stench of garbage and cheap liquor assaulted my nostrils, making me nauseous. "Be a good girl, little doctor." The leader smirked, his dirty hand gripping my chin tightly, forcing me to look up. "Drink this and we'll send you to heaven." He brought a glass of strangely colored liquor to my lips. I frantically clamped my teeth shut, shaking my head violently. "I know this isn't normal alcohol." "So you refuse a friendly drink and prefer a penalty drink?" He lost patience, signaling the other 2. One held my arms, the other my legs, completely immobilizing me. The leader squeezed my cheeks forcefully, prying my mouth open. The acrid, bitter liquid, carrying that filthy drug, was poured straight down my throat. "Cough, cough," I choked, trying to vomit the liquid out, but it was useless. A burning heat began to spread from my stomach, quickly consuming my entire body. My head spun, my senses blurring. My whole body felt weak, a terrifying, empty thrill rising from my innermost depths. "Ha ha ha, the drug is kicking in," the leader chuckled lecherously. His hand began to wander, slipping inside my white lab coat. "Let's see what's so tempting inside a doctor's coat." No, just as I reached the peak of despair, a deep, icy voice suddenly echoed from the entrance of the alley. "Take your filthy hands off her." The 3 thugs startled, turning around. A man stood there, backlit. He was tall, wearing a black shirt with sleeves rolled up to his elbows, revealing strong, tattooed arms. He stood casually, hands in his pockets, his gaze as sharp as a knife, coldly fixed on them. "Who the hell are you?" He didn't answer, simply slowly approaching. Each of his steps was firm, carrying an invisible pressure that made all 3 men instinctively retreat. Less than a minute later, all 3 were sprawled on the ground, groaning in pain. He didn't kill them, but every blow he struck was ruthless and decisive. The entire alley fell silent. He stood there, adjusting the collar of his slightly disheveled shirt, then turned to look at me. By now, I was completely under the drug's influence, my last shred of sanity burned away. In my eyes, the man before me was like a god. He carried a wonderfully refreshing scent, a cool minty aroma, the only coolness that could extinguish the fire consuming me. Instinctively, I stumbled towards him. "Help! Help me!" I moaned, my voice slurred with desire. My entire body was burning. Unconsciously, I tore open the buttons of my lab coat, revealing the flimsy camisole underneath. He frowned at my state, his eyes darkening. "Little girl, do you know what you're doing?" But I heard nothing. I only knew I was extremely uncomfortable. I lunged forward, throwing my arms around him. My whole body pressed tightly against his solid chest, my face buried there, greedily inhaling that cool scent. My body instinctively rubbed against his. "It's too hot, please help me." I looked up, and through the haze, I saw his thin, alluring lips. I stood on tiptoe, clumsily pressing a kiss onto his mouth. His body stiffened. After a few stunned seconds, he seemed to make a decision. He didn't push me away. Instead, one large hand tightened around my waist, the other cradling the back of my neck, transforming my innocent kiss into a deep, possessive one. My last shred of reason completely collapsed. All I remember before losing consciousness entirely was him sweeping me into his arms. The next morning, I woke up in an unfamiliar bed, my head throbbing. My entire body ached, especially my lower half, throbbing so intensely I couldn't move. My skin was covered in countless red and purple hickeys. Panicked, I looked around. The room was empty, he was gone. Humiliation and fear flooded me. I didn't dare stay another second. I hastily put my disheveled clothes back on, not daring to look back, and bolted out of the hotel like a thief who had just committed a heinous crime. In the following days, the alley incident consumed my thoughts, making it impossible for me to feel normal. That day, I was tasked with delivering patient records to the head of department in the VIP area on the hospital's top floor. It was my first time up there. The VIP area was quiet and luxurious, a stark contrast to the chaotic hustle downstairs. Absorbed in looking around, I took the wrong corridor. I found myself in front of a large room at the end of the hall, its door slightly ajar. Outside, 2 men in black suits stood guard, looking incredibly intimidating. I must have taken a wrong turn, I thought. I was about to turn away when the door suddenly creaked open wider due to a draft. Instinctively, I glanced inside and then I froze. On the luxurious hospital bed, a familiar man was sitting, leaning back against the pillows. His left leg was heavily bandaged. He wore a light blue patient gown, yet it couldn't conceal his regal, imposing aura. His face was sculpted, his dark eyes profound. It was him, my reluctant savior from that dark alley. Just then, he also looked up, his sharp gaze piercing through the gap in the door, straight at me. For a split second, I saw his icy eyes waver slightly. He recognized me. My entire body stiffened, my blood turning to ice. I was caught red-handed peeking, and the person I was peeking at was none other than that underworld savior from the other night. Could there be a more humiliating situation? My mind screamed at me to run immediately. I quickly lowered my head, ready to turn and slip away, pretending I was just a fly that happened to wander by. "Stop!" His deep, icy voice echoed. It wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable authority. The 2 black-suited bodyguards outside the door immediately moved, their imposing figures blocking my escape. This is it, I thought. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding in my chest. Slowly, stiffly, I turned around, not daring to lift my head to look at him. "Come in," he ordered again. I had no choice but to tiptoe like a kitten into the vast, luxurious VIP hospital room. The heavy wooden door slammed shut behind me. The sound was like a death sentence, cutting off all my contact with the outside world. Only he was in the room, the silence suffocating, broken only by the distinct hospital antiseptic smell mingled with a dangerous masculine scent emanating from him. "Look up," I flinched but instinctively obeyed. Slowly, I raised my head, meeting his profound gaze fixed on me, a sharp, invasive look as if he wanted to strip me bare and examine every detail. Sneaking a peek at others, he curved his lips slightly, a faint, almost mocking smile. "Is that your habit, doctor?" My face burned. I wasn't. I just took a wrong turn. I apologize for disturbing your rest." "Wrong turn?" he repeated, the corner of his mouth twitching upwards. "Doctor, do you know how many rooms this hospital has? And yet you managed to make such a precise wrong turn. It seems our fate isn't so bad." He clearly didn't believe me. This devil was deliberately teasing me. I was speechless, unable to argue. I could only lower my head, my hands unconsciously crumpling the corner of my white lab coat. He was silent for a moment, seemingly assessing my flustered expression. Then he abruptly changed the subject, his voice sounding slightly displeased. "The doctors here are too negligent." He pointed to his bandaged leg. "My wound still hurts, the bandage is loose, and the medication isn't helping." I looked up, my professional instinct drawing my gaze to his wound. The bandaging was indeed a bit sloppy, but that was because his injury wasn't simple. "Then I'll call the head of department to re-examine it for you." "No need." He cut me off, his sharp gaze locking onto me once again. "I don't trust them." He paused for a moment, then dropped a bombshell that left me utterly stunned. "From today onwards, you will be responsible for my care." Huh, my eyes widened. I can't, I'm just an intern, I'm not qualified." "If I say you're qualified, then you are." His voice was authoritarian, allowing no room for resistance. "I trust the skills of the doctor who tried to bandage me in that dark alley. At least you have some conscience." Was he complimenting me or mocking me about my conscience? But hospital regulations don't allow it. "Regulations?" He let out a cold laugh. "Here, my word is the regulation. Ethan, The name exploded like thunder in my ears. Ethan, the boss of the Black Dragon Gang, the man who controlled half of this city's underworld. A ruthless, cruel, cold-blooded figure of legend. Oh my God, my savior was this living devil. Seeing my face turn pale, he seemed quite pleased. He leaned back against his pillow, his posture lazy yet dangerously imposing. What? Scared now? He raised an eyebrow. Or do you want me to tell the entire hospital that a beautiful intern almost got humiliated by 3 thugs in the alley behind the hospital a few nights ago? You're threatening me, I gritted my teeth, glaring at him with hatred. You know my biggest weakness. If that story gets out, my reputation will be completely ruined. What do you want? I already told you. He looked at me, his eyes darkening, carrying an undisguised possessive intent. I want you to take care of me. Stay here 24/7 until I've fully recovered. He pressed the call button above his bed, and immediately a head nurse entered. Mr. Ethan, how may I assist you? From now on, he pointed at me, his voice cold, only she is allowed into this room. No one else without my explicit order is permitted to set foot inside. Understood? Yes, understood. The head nurse was so frightened her face turned ashen, she quickly nodded and scurried out. Now in this vast room it was just him and me, a prey and a predator. He looked at me, the familiar smirk returning to his lips. His eyes scanned my name tag. Luna Liang, what are you still standing there for? His voice was deep and ambiguous. Come here, help me change the bandage. Begin your work, Dr. Luna. His deep, suggestive words hammered straight into my buzzing ears. I stood rooted to the spot, my hands clenched tightly, my nails nearly digging into my flesh. Changing a bandage truly, as a doctor, this should be a perfectly normal task. But why, with this man, did a simple medical procedure suddenly feel so lewd, perverse, and fraught with danger? Seeing me motionless, he raised an eyebrow, a flash of impatience in his cold eyes. What? Or do you want me to do it myself? If the wound gets infected, you'll still be responsible, won't you? You're threatening me again? I gritted my teeth, glaring at him with hatred. This devil knew perfectly well that I couldn't abandon my patient, even if that patient was a scoundrel. My professional conscience wouldn't allow it. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the panic and humiliation within me. All right, Mr. Ethan, please lie down properly. I deliberately used the most professional and distant tone I could, as if to create a safe shell around myself. He curved his lips slightly, seemingly pleased with my compromise. He leisurely leaned back, his hands behind his head, looking as lazy as an emperor awaiting his concubine. I wheeled the medical cart closer to the bed, skillfully putting on my latex gloves, but as I bent down to remove the old bandage on his leg, my heart began to race. The proximity between us was so close that I could smell his familiar masculine minty scent. I could even see the bulging muscles subtly visible beneath his thin patient gown. Are your hands trembling, doctor? His voice chimed in, carrying an undisguised amusement. No, they're not. I quickly denied it, but my traitorous hands only trembled more. I bit my lip, trying to focus on my task. I gently and carefully peeled off each layer of gauze, and then I froze in shock. This was not a normal knife wound. The wound was on his calf, deep with edges showing signs of charring. This was a gunshot wound. My God, what kind of trouble has he gotten himself into? Seeing my horrified expression, he casually said, just carelessly bitten by a stray dog. What stray dog knows how to use a gun? I didn't dare ask anything further, silently using forceps to pick up a cotton swab soaked in antiseptic, carefully cleaning his wound. The bleeding had stopped, but the wound was still slightly swollen and red. A little lighter, he suddenly frowned, letting out a soft groan. I am sorry. I flinched, quickly easing the pressure. Dr. Luna, are you trying to get revenge on me? I am not. Then why are your hands trembling so much, and why do you occasionally press so hard on my wound? He looked at me, his eyes full of provocation. I was so angry my face flushed crimson. This jerk was clearly trying to provoke me. I didn't bother to argue with him anymore, simply focusing on my work. I disinfected and applied the medication, then carefully and professionally rebandaged the wound with clean gauze. Done, I sighed in relief, gathering the instruments, intending to make a swift exit. Wait, he called out, stopping me. Who said you could leave? My work is done. Done, he gave a cold laugh. Who told you it was done? My whole body feels like it's on fire. Come here and check my temperature. I was speechless. This was clearly an excuse, but I couldn't refuse. I picked up the thermometer and approached him. Please put this in your mouth. I don't have the strength, he said lazily. You do it. Unbelievable, I gritted my teeth, glaring at him with hatred. His eyes were closed, a look of utter enjoyment on his face. I had no other choice but to tremblingly place the thermometer in his mouth. To do so, my face was almost pressed against his solid chest. I could hear his strong, steady heartbeat. His masculine scent flooded my nostrils, making my head spin. 5 minutes later, I took the thermometer out. 37 degrees Celsius. He didn't have a fever. Is that so? He opened his eyes, his gaze darkening. Then maybe the fire is somewhere else. He suddenly reached out and pulled me forcefully. Ah! I lost my balance, falling directly onto him. My entire body lay neatly on his firm chest. My white lab coat was disheveled, revealing my pale neck. What are you doing? I cried out in alarm, struggling. I feel a little thirsty, he said, not answering my question, just staring at me, his voice hoarse and slightly vulgar. I want to take a bath. Then I'll call a nurse. No need, he cut me off. I want you to help me. I can't. You're not so helpless you can't go by yourself, are you? What to do, but suddenly my leg hurts again. He smirked, a wicked smile playing on his lips. His large hand began to wander, lightly tracing my bare back, making me shiver. This is also part of patient care, isn't it, Dr. Luna? He paused, then leaned close to my ear. His hot breath brushed against my sensitive earlobe. Or do you want me to call those bodyguards outside to help? Let them see how my private doctor takes care of me in this room. This devil. He was threatening me again. I was so angry I wanted to cry, but I was powerless. Good girl, he seemed quite pleased with my helplessness. He wiped away a tear rolling down my cheek. Now, come here. His voice was deep and suggestive. Help me undress. His hot breath brushed against my sensitive earlobe. Each word he uttered felt like a curse, binding me tightly. I was so furious I wanted to cry, but I was powerless. His threat still echoed in my ears. Let those bodyguards outside see. Damn it, just thinking about it made my scalp tingle. I bit my lip tightly, trying to swallow my tears. You sit up first. Ethan smirked, a smile of utter satisfaction. He slowly sat up but didn't release me, instead pulling me to sit on his lap, facing him. This position was 1,000 times more ambiguous. My whole body was nestled on his lap. Through several layers of fabric, I could feel something hard and hot stirring, pressing against my most sensitive spot. This beast! My face flushed crimson, as if about to steam. What? He looked at me, his eyes full of provocation. Didn't you want to help me undress? Isn't this the most convenient position? I was speechless. This devil, his words were sharper than a knife. I tremblingly raised my hands to touch the row of buttons on his patient gown. My fingers trembled so much I fumbled for a single button. Dr. Luna, your skills are really lacking. He chuckled, a deep laugh rumbling from his chest, resonating all the way to my heart. Or should I teach you? With that, he took my trembling hand and placed it on his firm chest. He guided my fingers, slowly unbuttoning each one. With each button undone, his bronze, muscular chest was revealed a little more. And when the gown was completely open, I almost held my breath. On that perfect body, there were not only bulging, masculine muscles, but also countless old and new scars, large and small. Especially near his left chest, close to his heart, was a long, deep, terrifying scar. Was this his life? A life constantly facing knives, guns, and danger? For a second, the fear and humiliation within me were suddenly replaced by an indescribable pang of sorrow. Seeing me stare at the scar, his eyes darkened. Scared? I shook my head, unconsciously reaching out to gently touch the scar. Does it hurt? My action seemed to surprise him, his body stiffened. He stared at me, his eyes complex, no longer teasing. I've forgotten, he replied after a long silence, his voice a little hoarse. The ambiguous atmosphere suddenly grew heavy, but he quickly regained his usual domineering demeanor. All right, no more dawdling. Help me into the bathroom. He stood up, one hand on my shoulder, shifting almost the entire weight of his large body onto me. He was clearly doing this on purpose. I had to use all my strength to help him into the bathroom. The bathroom here was even larger than my own bedroom, paved with luxurious marble. Help me take off the rest, he said, pointing to his patient pants. My face flushed crimson again. You can do it yourself. My leg is injured, he stated casually. If I fall in here, you'll be responsible. It's that damned refrain again? I gritted my teeth, hated him, and knelt down, my trembling hands undoing his belt. As his pants slid down, revealing his long, strong legs and the formidable weapon subtly hidden beneath black underwear, my mind exploded. I quickly turned my face away, not daring to look further. "Done, Mr. Ethan, you can go in now." I helped him to the shower, then quickly backed away, intending to slip out. "Where are you going?" he called out, stopping me. "Who said you could leave? Come here, scrub my back." I stood there, dumbfounded. Scrub his back? Was he treating me like a maid? Hurry up. I had no other choice. I picked up the bath sponge and stepped into the warm water. He stood with his back to me, his broad, strong back with intricate tattoos and old scars visible before me. I tremblingly raised the bath sponge, gently rubbing his back. Beneath my hands was hot, firm skin. Every movement I made caused his muscles to subtly twitch. "A little harder," he ordered, his voice already hoarse with desire. I obeyed. "A little lower," I followed again. Lower still. My hand had slid down to his firm waist, just above his taut glutes. Just then, he suddenly turned around. "Ah!" I screamed, quickly shutting my eyes, but it was too late. His naked, masculine form had already imprinted itself on my eyes. "Open your eyes," he commanded. I shook my head vigorously. He chuckled, a deep, wicked laugh. He reached out, gripped my chin, and forced me to open my eyes and face him. "Why be shy?" He looked at me, his eyes blazing. "Didn't you act much more proactively that night? Moreover, that night you took my first time, so you have to take responsibility." He leaned down to kiss me, but I pushed him away with all my might, then bolted out of the bathroom. I ran straight to the hospital room door, intending to open it and escape, but the door was locked from the outside. I desperately pounded on the door, but no one answered. "It's useless," Ethan's voice echoed from behind. He had finished showering, now only wrapped in a towel around his waist, his wet hair making him look even more dangerously alluring. "Tonight," he advanced, cornering me against the wall, "you won't take another step out of here." He leaned down close to my ear, his voice deep and suggestive. "The daytime care is over. Now," he bit lightly on my earlobe, making me shiver, "it's time for nighttime care." His hoarse voice whispered in my ear, each word carrying raw possessiveness. I was trapped in the corner, behind me the cold brick wall, in front of me his hot chest. I had no escape. "No, Ethan, stop," I whimpered, my voice breaking, my resistance as weak as an invitation. "Stop," he sneered, a deep chuckle rumbling from his chest. He wasn't in a hurry, merely using one hand to lift my chin, forcing me to meet his profound gaze. "Dr. Luna, tell me, what's your heart rate right now? Your breathing is rapid. Your whole body is trembling, your skin flushed. What kind of illness is this?" "Damn it, this devil." He was using my own medical knowledge to tease me. My face flushed crimson with shame and anger. "You're a pervert, aren't you?" He admitted it casually. "And now, this pervert wants to examine you." With that, he gave me no more chances to resist. He leaned down, his cold lips covering mine. This kiss was no longer teasing or exploratory, but a wild, unrestrained conquest. He bit and sucked on my lips, his dominant tongue threading inside, ravaging my mouth. The kiss was both intense and profound, carrying all the suppressed desires and lust he had been holding back. My reason screamed at me to push him away, but my body betrayed me. It was softening, trembling, responding to his kiss. My hands unconsciously wrapped around his neck, my fingers threading through his soft black hair. He seemed very pleased with my surrender. He pulled away from my lips, then swept me into his arms. "Ah!" I cried out in surprise. He said nothing, just took long strides, carrying me out of the bathroom and straight towards the large bed. He gently placed me on the soft mattress, then climbed on, propping himself up on his hands, once again pinning me beneath him. "Ethan," he commanded, his voice hoarse, "call me Ethan." "You're so good," he smiled, a wicked, seductive smile. He wasn't in a hurry, he was like a predator slowly savoring his prey. He began to scatter hot kisses over my body, from my neck down to my collarbone, then paused on my full, heaving breasts beneath my camisole. He didn't unbutton my shirt but gently bit the first button with his teeth. Pop, the button flew off. Pop, the second. He continued to use his mouth to unbutton each one, revealing the flimsy camisole underneath. His eyes burned as if wanting to set me on fire. "Do you know Luna Liang?" he whispered, his large hand beginning to wander, lightly tracing my hot skin. "Since that alley, I've never forgotten you. That night you begged me to help you." He leaned down, his tongue lightly tracing the peak of my breast through the thin fabric, making me shiver. "Do you want to beg me again now?" I bit my lip tightly, not answering, but my body kept writhing, rubbing against his clearly aroused self. "Heh, you're honest, aren't you?" He chuckled, then stopped teasing me. He ripped open my camisole, revealing 2 pristine white lotus blossoms. He leaned down and took one into his mouth, beginning to suckle. Oh, my mind exploded. An intense pleasure, unlike anything I'd ever known, rushed over me, shattering my last bit of sanity. I arched my back, my hands unconsciously gripping the bedsheets, my mouth continuously letting out fragmented moans. Ethan. He possessed me while whispering intimate, blush-inducing words into my ear, making me both ashamed and excited. He made me realize that deep within me, there were also such intense desires. He was not gentle. He was strong, passionate, demanding again and again, as if wanting to engrave his mark deep into my body and soul. He made me his woman in the most raw and dominant way possible. When I finally lay utterly exhausted in his arms, almost unconscious from climax, he held me tightly, his voice hoarse with satisfaction. "I'm sorry I scared you." The next morning, I woke up in a strong embrace. My whole body ached, yet an unfamiliar sense of peace welled up inside me. I stirred slightly, and he immediately woke up. He said nothing, just leaned down and placed a deep, lingering morning kiss on my lips. "Wake up," he said, pulling away from my lips. "I'll take you to breakfast." I have to go home," I mumbled. "Go where?" He raised an eyebrow. "Have you forgot? You're my private doctor, you have to be here 24/7. From now on, this is your home." He stood up, walked to the closet, and took out a brand new dress. "Wear this," he handed it to me. "Your clothes from now on will be personally chosen by me." Every day, Ethan had a car pick me up and drop me off for work every day. He didn't forbid me from working, but he used an invisible chain to bind me. Every action, every call I made was under his control. At the company, he was a cold-blooded underworld boss, but as soon as he came home, he transformed into a beast, always finding ways to devour me completely. He used my own body to make it clear that I belonged to him. "Come here." I was sitting on the sofa reading a medical book when his deep voice resonated from his desk. I pretended not to hear. "Luna Liang, do you want me to come over and carry you?" I gritted my teeth, hated him, put the book down, and walked towards him. He was sitting on a large leather chair, one hand holding documents, the other waving me over. "Come here." I walked closer, standing in front of him, my face wary. He said nothing, just pulled me forcefully, making me fall onto his lap. "Ah, shhh." He placed a finger on my lips, his deep eyes staring intently at me. "Something unpleasant happened today?" I was stunned. "What? How did you know? Today, the head of department scolded me for a minor mistake." "Don't think I don't know anything." He gave a cold smile, his large hand beginning to wander, slipping inside my shirt, kneading my tiny waist. "No one is allowed to bully my woman, not even you." "Then why do you keep bullying me?" I pouted. "This isn't bullying." He leaned down close to my ear, his voice hoarse and suggestive. "This is affection." As he spoke, he bit lightly on my earlobe, making my whole body tremble. His hand had moved upwards, cupping one of my full, round breasts through the thin fabric. Tonight," he whispered, his hot breath against my neck, "how about we try our examination on that new slide I had installed?" My face turned bright red like a boiled shrimp. This beast, does he have anything else in his head besides these things? Just then the doorbell rang, and Ace, one of his trusted subordinates, entered. When he saw me sitting on Ethan's lap in an undeniably ambiguous position, his eyes immediately flashed with surprise and a hint of disdain. "Boss, this woman is..." Crash. Ethan said nothing, merely picked up the crystal ashtray on his desk and hurled it to the ground. The ashtray shattered, shards flying everywhere. Ace turned pale with fear, quickly dropping to his knees. "Boss, I was wrong." Ethan stood up, causing me to quickly stand as well. He walked in front of Ace, a cold, oppressive aura radiating from him that made me hold my breath. "Ace, have you forgotten the rules?" His voice was ice cold. No, I wouldn't dare." "Then tell me, what kind of look did you just give her?" Ace trembled, unable to speak. Ethan said nothing, just pulled a black pistol from his desk drawer and pointed it straight at Ace's head. I was so terrified I screamed, "Ethan, no." He turned to look at me, his eyes still cold but with an unreadable hint of tenderness. "Are you scared?" He turned back to Ace, who was so terrified he had wet himself. "Listen carefully. She is Luna Liang, your future sister-in-law, and the only woman who belongs to me, Ethan." He paused, his voice ruthless. Next time, if I see you or anyone else dare to look at her like that, don't blame me for being merciless. Dig out your own eyes. Get out. Why, yes, thank you, boss, for sparing my life. Ace scrambled to his feet, bolting away as if he'd seen a ghost. The entire room fell silent again. I still hadn't recovered from the terrifying scene. He walked over to me, gently pulling me into his embrace. I told you, with me here, no one can bully you. I buried my face in his firm chest, a complex mix of emotions welling up inside me. This man was both a devil and my guardian angel. Ethan, I mumbled, your world is really scary. Then don't look, he lightly kissed my hair. You only need to look at me. He held me for a long while, then suddenly spoke. Tomorrow night there's a party. You're coming with me. I don't want to. You don't have the right to refuse, he cut me off. You're my private doctor, you go wherever I go. Moreover, he leaned down, looking straight into my eyes, his voice domineering. Tomorrow night, I want everyone in my world to know that you belong to me, Ethan. Just as he said, the next evening, a famous designer was personally brought to the villa. She was followed by an entire team of makeup artists and hairstylists carrying large and small boxes. Mr. Ethan instructed us to prepare Miss Luna perfectly. I was ushered into a room, sitting before the vanity table like a lifeless doll. I didn't resist. With Ethan's personality, any resistance was futile. When the final dress was brought out, I almost held my breath. It was a long, jet-black evening gown made from high-quality, shimmering fabric. Its design was extremely simple, yet it couldn't be more provocative. The spaghetti straps were as thin as threads, and the back was daringly cut deep, revealing almost my entire pale, bare back. But the most killing detail was the slit. A long slit ran from my ankle all the way up my thigh, so high that with every step I took, one long, slender thigh would be half hidden, half revealed. Ethan, he was clearly doing this on purpose. He wanted all the men at the party tonight to stare at me. Then he would step forward to declare his ownership, satisfying his twisted, possessive nature. When I walked out, he was already waiting in the living room. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit, his hair neatly slicked back, looking like a dark emperor. The moment he saw me, I saw his deep black eyes darken, his Adam's apple subtly bobbing. He said nothing, just took long strides to my side. His large hand lightly brushed my bare back, a touch like an electric shock that made me shiver. Beautiful, he leaned down and whispered into my ear, his voice hoarse. So beautiful, I just want to rip it off right now. Hide you away, not let any other man see you. The party was held at the city's most prestigious 6-star hotel, gathering all the influential figures, from underworld bosses to prominent financial magnates. Every single person there exuded a dangerous and powerful aura. The moment we entered, hand in hand, the once bustling ballroom instantly fell silent. All eyes turned to us, curious, surprised, envious, covetous. I felt as though I was stripped bare before hundreds of hungry wolves. I unconsciously tightened my grip on his arm. Don't be afraid, he pulled me closer. His deep voice whispered in my ear, stand tall. Tonight you are my queen. He led me around, introducing me. He introduced me simply yet dominantly. This is my woman, Luna Liang. No one dared to object. They could only respectfully bow and call me sister-in-law. Just then, a middle-aged man who appeared to be a well-known mob boss approached. He looked at me with undisguised lecherous eyes. Ethan, you truly have an eye for beauty. This young lady is quite a stunner. He chuckled, then turned to me. Would the young lady do me the honor of sharing a drink? Before I could even refuse, Ethan pulled me behind him, shielding me. He looked at the man, a cold smirk playing on his lips. Old man Zhang, are you tired of living? The man's face immediately changed. My woman, Ethan said, his tone ruthless, is not something you can casually flirt with. He reached out, gripping my wrist, pulling me closer. She doesn't drink. If you want a drink, I'll drink with you. With that, he picked up a bottle of strong liquor from the table, no glass needed, and took a long swig. The entire ballroom fell silent once more. After establishing his dominance, he pulled me out to the balcony. Why did you drink so much? I asked, worried. Because I'm jealous, he replied casually. I don't like the way that old man looked at you, he said, then cornered me against the wall. It made me want to gouge out his eyes. He leaned down, his dark eyes now tinged with alcohol and desire. And it also makes me want you right now. Ethan, this is a public place. So what? He sneered. He leaned down, not to kiss me, but to gently bite my collarbone through the thin dress. I want to mark you as mine so everyone knows who you belong to. His large hand began to wander, slipping inside the slit of my dress slowly, gently tracing upwards. I moaned, my entire body melting in his arms. Tell me whose you are, he whispered, his hand now reaching my most sensitive spot. I'm yours. Good girl, he didn't do anything further, just quietly held me. That night I paid a heavy price for the jealousy of the beast, Ethan. The moment the villa door closed, he pressed me against the wall, his eyes bloodshot with alcohol and desire. He said not a word, using only actions to prove his words. He tore my expensive black dress from my body without a shred of pity. Ethan, stop. SHHH. He placed a finger on my lips, his voice hoarse. Call my name. He swept me up, carried me straight into the bedroom. He tossed me onto the large bed, then climbed on, pinning me beneath him. He was like a starved beast, ravenously taking me. He kissed me, bit me, leaving countless red and purple hickeys all over my body, a way to brand me as his own, to erase the dirty glances of that man. He wasn't gentle. He was strong, passionate, demanding again and again, as if wanting to punish my disobedience, to punish me for allowing another man to have the chance to flirt. Tell me whose you are, he growled in my ear, as he powerfully thrust into me. I'm yours, I sobbed, my entire body trembling with pleasure and fear. Good girl. That night he made me cry, made me moan, made me beg, and also made me reach heights of ecstasy, soaring wildly in sweetness. When I lay utterly exhausted in his arms, almost unconscious from climax, he held me tightly, his voice hoarse with satisfaction. From now on, if any man dares to look at you like that again, I won't just gouge out his eyes, he whispered. I'll make him regret ever being born into this world. In the days that followed, my life completely changed. Ethan no longer concealed our relationship. He openly picked me up and dropped me off for work every day. At the hospital, I, an anonymous intern, suddenly became the future sister-in-law of the Black Dragon Gang, a figure no one dared to offend. He stopped bullying me, replacing it with an overwhelming indulgence. He had my office renovated, and expensive meals delivered for my lunch every day. He was still domineering, still possessive, but that dominance now carried an indescribable sweetness. One day, as I was sitting in his office, helping him with some paperwork, I curiously asked, Ethan, why do you love me? He was looking at documents, but hearing my question, he looked up, his deep eyes meeting mine. Because you were the first person, he said, his tone very serious, who dared to touch my wound and ask if it hurt. My heart trembled. I remembered the scene in the hospital room that day. And you, he continued, a slight smirk on his lips, were also the first person bold enough to seduce me. My face flushed crimson. This pervert, he still remembers that. He chuckled, pulling me onto his lap. But most importantly, he leaned down, pressing his forehead against mine, it's because I love you. There's something I want to ask you. Do you remember one time you worked late? That day, you encountered someone so injured they couldn't stand up. You bandaged and gave first aid to the wound, and then thoughtfully left the bread you had just bought but hadn't eaten for him. Do you know what he was thinking then? I was astonished. I remember. That day was even later than the day you saved me, but I just felt so much pity for him. My professional ethics wouldn't allow me to leave him, so I helped. I thought he probably needed something to eat to regain his strength, so I left the bread. But how did you know that? I quickly turned to ask. I don't know what he was thinking. He thought he definitely had to find you to say thank you and to protect you for the rest of his life. But how did you know that story? I asked, bewildered. He just nodded. Yes, I was him. That day, I lost too much blood. If you hadn't stopped the bleeding in time, I might have been gone for good. And I didn't have the strength to ask your name, so I always waited in that alley around that time. I really wanted to meet you again and thought that if you were working late, you'd probably need someone to protect you, so I was always in that alley. It's just that when I met you again that day, I was a little surprised. I didn't expect it to be in that situation. I just smiled and turned to him, hugging him very tightly. A year later, sister-in-law, boss is in a meeting. Please wait in the lounge for a moment. Ace, his trusted subordinate now, looked at me with immense respect. I smiled and nodded, walking straight into the lounge within his office. I was no longer the timid intern I once was. By his side, I had learned to be strong and confident. I was sitting on the sofa when the door opened. Ethan walked in, looking a bit tired. Seeing me, he immediately smiled, came over and sat beside me, pulling me into his arms. Why are you here? Miss me? No, I pouted. I just came to check if you were hiding any other women in your office while I wasn't around. He burst out laughing, gently biting my nose. Ha, he pulled me closer. In this whole world, I only need you. After holding me for a long while, he suddenly whispered in my ear, his voice hoarse and suggestive. Wifey, tonight, how about we try our examination on that new slide I had installed? I didn't answer, simply wrapped my arms around his neck, pulled him down, and initiated a kiss on his lips. That's my answer.